Ah, the power of choice. Thank you, Lori and music team and Daily Word for bringing us to this place where we're open, where our hearts are open, where we're feeling so grounded and centered and ready to consider a new spiritual tool, consider a new way of being. And so the power of choice. Center for Spiritual Living and Unity Minister Temple Hayes penned these words many years ago. This is the greatest moment that you and I have ever lived. We have never been greater or better or more alive than we are right now. You see, as long as we believe that there was a better yesterday or that tomorrow holds some guarantee, we are missing out on the greatest moment we will ever have. And that is right now. Powerful words, powerful words. And our power is in today, in the now moment, because we can only live in one moment at a time. We can either be right here, fully present, or we can be in the past or the future. If our thoughts and our emotions and our energy is caught up in yesterday, in regrets, in disappointments, in resentments, even in joy, that is where we are. We're in the past. And if our thoughts and our emotions and our energy is focused on worrying about tomorrow, anxious about what the future holds, even if it's with great anticipation, that is where we are in the future. We cannot affect or change our past, and we do not have power on the unfolding of tomorrow. Our power lies in the choices we make today, in this moment. That is why this is the greatest moment that you and I have ever lived. This is the greatest moment in our lives, for this is the moment that holds the power of affecting our lives, of influencing our thoughts, and thereby our words and our actions, our emotions. So we've completed the process of the burning bowl, of releasing what we choose not to take with us into 2024, those resentments and unforgiveness and judgments about ourselves and others. And we've set the intention with our letter to God and the white stone ritual, choosing our name for the new year. And each of these rituals, these processes began with a choice, with making a decision, what to release and what to focus upon, to carry into the new world with us, into the new year. It's all about choice. I'm going to repeat that. It is always about choice. And who holds the power of making that choice? You do. I do. Individually, we each hold that power. For life happens, stuff happens to all of us. But what we do with it, how we hold it, determines the impact it has upon our lives, upon the energy of who we are, upon how we walk in this world and carry ourselves. A long time ago, a poor Chinese farmer lost a horse. And all the neighbors came around and said, "Oh, that's so bad. What bad fortune." And the farmer said, maybe yes, maybe no. Shortly after, the horse returned and brought with him another horse. And all the neighbors came around and said, "Well, that's good fortune." To which the farmer replied, maybe yes, maybe no. The next day, the farmer's son was trying to tame the new horse and fell, breaking his leg. And all the neighbors came around and said, "Oh, that is such bad fortune." And the farmer said, maybe yes, maybe no. Shortly after, the emperor declared war on a neighboring nation and ordered all able-bodied men to come and fight. But the farmer's son was unable to fight and spared due to his injury. And you guessed it, the neighbors came and said, "Oh, that's wonderful fortune." The farmer replied, "Maybe, maybe yes, maybe no." And so the story goes on. And in China, when something bad happens, people will often say, "Sai Wen Shima, Sai Wen Shima." Remember the old man who lost his horse. To remind ourselves and others that sometimes bad things happen, which carry a silver lining. And that's the way to look at things. For how we look at things determine the power that those things hold over our lives. It's a caution to all of us to not get too attached to what happens to us, good or bad. It's a very Taoist tale indeed, that unattachment to the outcome, that unattachment to naming things good or bad. I saw this for myself when the Tibetan Buddhist monks were in town earlier this month. What a beautiful, peace-filled energy that they expressed. And I was honored to be part of their welcoming dinner. And members of the local Sangha had walked with them from their lodgings at St. Paul's on Duval to the house where they were dining. And the monks were very tired. They had traveled for 3 days and they had arrived just a couple of hours before this dinner. So after they were finished eating, they were ready to go back to St. Paul's. And they said their goodbyes and they started out walking. Now, given it was only a few blocks, a 2 to 3 minute walk, but there were some turns involved. It wasn't just a straight shot. So the folks from the Sangha waved them off. And there I was, the mother hen. Do they know how to get back? So do they know where they're going? Should someone walk with them? Now, the monks weren't concerned. No one was worried but me. And when I recognized what was happening, I found myself laughing at myself. I was choosing to worry, to fret. It was a choice. And yes, it came from caring, but it was not necessary. And once I realized my concern wasn't necessary, I was able to release it. And that's the hard part, isn't it? The release, the decision and the actual letting go, and then not allowing yourself the temptation of picking it back up. Gee, I hope those monks got back okay. Nope, that's still choosing to worry. It's choosing anxiety over peace, because how does that worry benefit anyone? It doesn't. I read something the other day that said, worry is an insult to God. Worry is an insult to God, worrying being the opposite of faith. And when I read these things, and I know you see them also, I try to pause and ask myself how I truly feel about it. Does it fit with my belief system? Does it oppose it? You see, I have a choice, and so do you. Always. Do I embrace this and accept it as a potential truth? Or do I release it without the need to judge it or make it wrong? Simply let it float away. It sounds so easy. Don't worry, be happy. Hakuna Matata, the Swahili phrase made famous by Disney, which means no trouble or no worries or take it easy. If only it truly were that easy to do. Instead, it sounds oversimplified and flippant. Absolutely. For if it were that easy, we'd all be doing it all the time. But we live in this binary culture, so it's difficult not to get attached to things being either good or bad, because it's easier that way. It's easier for us to categorize. It's easier for our psyche to accept good or bad and to put it in that category than to sit in the maybe. It is more difficult to remain fluid, maintaining a space of allowing, of creating the space for divine unfoldment to take place. It takes practice to do that. It takes lots of practice to do that. But there is peace in that maybe, in that fluidity. When you really think about it, there's peace in not attaching to it being good or bad. Of course, this is easier to do when things are pretty much working out for us. But when things go south in our lives, or we come across a conflict or a struggle with another person or a group, the ability to perceive our situation in an unattached, objective, maybe way is more difficult. But doing so, trying to hold that space of fluidity, brings the promise that at the very least, clarity and insight and wisdom will follow us through to the other side. Because the life and the quality of our lives depends upon our choices, how we choose to think about those things that happen in our lives, the stuff that happens. And these choices are made easier when we remember we don't have to adapt all at once. In all things, when we're faced with a decision, a choice, or a direction, we have the opportunity to slow things down. I call it intentional living. And I'm going to give this to you in 6 easy steps. Intentional living in 6 easy steps, how we set our personal intention to consider choosing our reaction to a response. The first one is to pause and remain calm. Stay calm and refuse to become agitated when things seem to fall apart or move in a different direction than what you had planned or intended or desired. Give yourself a moment, several moments. Allow your system, your complex human and emotional body system, time to recognize and absorb what has occurred. Take that breath. Take another breath. And if a tear falls, let it. Sob out loud if it helps. You thought you were headed in this direction, and now it's been altered. If it angers you, give yourself that space to be angry. If it disappoints and saddens you, give yourself the space to be disappointed and sad. You will not remain stuck there. You have too many tools. You know too much to get stuck there. And so pause and remain calm. The second is to trust your abilities. And remember that you possess all the wisdom, all the knowledge, and all the skills required to carry you through. Remember who you are and whose you are. Your faith in something greater and in your divine self serves to ground you when life feels out of balance. Trust that you will make it through and that you are not alone in this. You are not alone in everything, in anything. Remember the saying, God won't give me more than I can handle. I just wish God didn't trust me so much. Well, you've got this, whatever this is. You are wiser than you realize, and you are stronger than you let yourself fully know. And so trust in your abilities. The third one is to invite acceptance. For even in chaos, there is order. Rather than resist, lean into the change of direction. Respond to change with flexibility and not rigidity. You are adapting. Trees that bend with the wind become stronger. The wind strengthens a tree and helps it to mature and not fall from its own weight. A tree that refuses to bend breaks. You might recall a research project called Biosphere 2, where scientists had built a small-scale contained environment to study the ecological process. Well, the lack of wind within the enclosure had a negative effect on the trees that had been planted. They did not mature. They did not develop the inner strength required to grow to maturity. And so allow the wind, invite acceptance. The fourth one is to take action, because as humans, We have an ego, and we need to feel that we have some control on what happens in our lives, don't we? Don't allow yourself to become paralyzed by events, at least not for long. Just because those events didn't turn out as you had imagined. Pivot with the change. Even in the midst of unexpected change, there's always some action we can take. And this will soothe our human nature. There's some adaptation on our part so that we do not feel powerless over the situation. Call a friend, bake a pie, write down your feelings of frustration, and then burn the paper or rip it up or bury it in the yard. Take a vitamin, go for a walk, do something, anything. And it can have a positive impact on the situation, even if it isn't related to the solution. Taking a walk is related to the solution. Fresh air, connecting with nature, remembering your strengths. Calling a friend, even if you don't discuss what you're upset about, is connected to calming you, reminding you of your connection with others, and allowing you to feel more in control. Perhaps the conversation makes you laugh. It lightens your heart. It makes the problem seem smaller. So take some positive action. The fifth is don't compromise on integrity. Doing the right thing is always the right thing to do. And it can feel slippery at times. I know, hedging, half-truths, avoidance, withholding. One of the 4 agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz is to be impeccable with your word. Speak with integrity. Say only what you mean. Avoid using words to speak against yourself or to gossip about others. You see, your body, your organs, your cells, and the space between your cells, your energy, vibration feels when we think, speak, and act out of alignment with the truth we know. It harms us. It harms us. It takes us out of the harmony, the hum, the natural motion of our body. So do not compromise with integrity. And the 6th one, you can probably guess, love. Always. When we recognize our oneness with one another, the choices become so much easier, more apparent, and so much cleaner. When we see ourselves in the other, whoever that other is, the other melds into a field of allness, and the differences disappear. To love is to return to the source, to seek our Christ essence, and then to shine that Christ essence out to the situation, to the change, to the disruption, so that we can be who we came here to be, to love indiscriminately, outrageously, and inclusively. Love. And so I'm going to repeat those 6 steps. Pause and remain calm. Trust your abilities. Invite acceptance. Take action. Don't compromise on integrity. And love. Always. And love yourself a little extra right now. You are growing and healing and learning and discovering yourself, as we all are, who set our intention for ourselves for this spiritual path. For this is the greatest moment that you and I have ever lived. This is our place of power, the power to choose how to express in this world, today, now. And so it is. And so it is.